La Lanterna, a spotlight in Italian football, is a podcast that dives into the beautiful game seen from the eyes of two fans from the oldest team in Italy's point of view. My name is Fabrizio Cardone, Canadian and Genovese, together with my friend Matt Killen, an American-born and Genoa fan. Every week, we'll tell you all you need to know about the only team you need to know about, Genoa CFC. Plus, we'll have guests and provide updates from around the magical world of Italian football. Ciao, everyone from La Lanterna podcast on our Express episode. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Ciao, Fabry. How's it going?
Good. So I have to say that people reached out to us and saying, whoa, why not? You're not doing especially there's a midweek game and so on. You're not doing a podcast. So what are we going to do? We're going to skip it? No, we're going to put it in this Express type of episode.
Yes. So it's been a week, but there's also been a lot of stuff going on in the world of Genoa. And so I think we've got some good things to talk about. For anyone that wants to know or go back into the match at Cosenza this past weekend, we encourage you to listen to the Lego Football Pod. It's a great pod. It comes out every week. We try to hop in there whenever we can because we love it, but it's an excellent kind of showcase of all the ins and outs and everything going on in Italian football. And Fabry and I were on the last one, kind of breaking down the match and some of the big moments that happened there. So obviously a good win at Cosenza and glad to have the 3 points. But
sorry, just to skip in there, just thanks to David Ferrini all the time.
Thank you
for the great space also he gave us on his podcast. Sorry, go on.
Yes, David Ferrini, the host of Lego Football, very talented guy, and he's got it down pat too. This podcasting thing,
absolutely. So one other thing, I wanted to apologize to our lined up guest that we had. We were going to record first on Tuesday, then on Thursday, then we had to cancel it yesterday. And that's why we put out that message that we're going to skip this week, but here we are, of course. So I wanted to apologize again, even officially with our guest, which is Rob from Signore del Calcio, but we'll definitely have him later on in one of our next episodes.
There we go. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And sincerest apologies, but it should be a great conversation in the future.
Absolutely. So what happened? So we said Ternana is the next one coming up. We talked about the Cosenza, so 2-1 final. Quick recap. So that's a good 3 points away. The streak is going quite well. So we're catching up there, and we're 1 point to the sole lead in the Serie A, which is Ternana, which is Serie our B. Next.
But
sorry, say
Serie B, but we want Serie A.
Of course. Well, I'm thinking about I'm that way. Clip. I'm there already, but I guess I don't know why. Anyways, so 1 point to the lead in Serie B, which is Ternana, and there's a whole bunch of people at the second spot.
Yes, the table is really very, very crowded right now. I think we're even with Bari, Frosinone, and Regina now, all on 18 points, and we've got a few clubs right behind us too on 16 with Parma and Brescia. Cagliari sitting at 8th at 14. So,
Sud Tirol, you don't forget our friends from Sud Tirol.
Yes, fair. Sud Tirol also on 14 on 9th place. So the whole thing, it's amazing. It's 9 positions separated by 5 points so far. So we're not in the clear by any means, but good to be where we are, I think, for sure.
Absolutely. So during the week, we had Coppa Italia that came up. And Genoa had played at the Ferraris against SPAL. So what should we start saying about the match?
Well, of course, we ended up getting the victory within the match. I think it's probably interesting to note some of the changes in the lineup that were there too as well for Genoa, lining up against SPAL. So we did have Yeboah coming in to start, Portanova in as kind of that kind of central midfield, attacking midfield role. First time he started actually in a few matches. I can't remember how many it's been. We have Badel back in the lineup now, also after kind of Strootman kind of having his ascendancy. And I think in the defense, we've seen a little bit of some of these players in and out. I thought it was interesting that Hefty got some run after kind of sitting behind Sibeli the last few, and you have Semper in goal for, I think, the first match of the campaign, if I'm not mistaken. He maybe played in one of the other Copa Italia matches.
That's correct.
So, yeah, I mean, a little bit of a rotation within the side, but that's exactly kind of what you expect with a cup. And I still think was a pretty strong side. You know, it's not like we were taking this match lightly.
Well, no, like De Rossi as the coach on the SPAL side, obviously he's shooken up, taking on the team and so on. You can see already his sort of like touch.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think still on the paper, even he admitted that it was not going to be like easy for them. And one thing I wanted to point out, and I'm not too sure if you even noticed that, but if you look at our lineup that you were just talking about, there were a lot of benchers. So what I'm trying to say with that is, even with the benchers, you still see, even though we won only 1-0, and I think don't judge that too much, the 1-0, because it's a little bit counterindicative of what actually happened on the pitch. So essentially, what I'm trying to say that the shots on goal and the possession and whoever was driving the match was for Genoa. And what I'm trying to say with this is, even with the benchers, quote unquote benchers, it still happens the same way. So that gives me a good comfort type of feeling that even with the quality that we have on the bench, we're okay.
I think that's a really good point. You know, there was already rotation in the starting lineup, and we had several players coming in the second half too, that it might have been like, wait a minute, we're getting some plays. First time we had Sabora play, I think, in a match in like 2 years. It's kind of actually nice to see his bleached blonde hair running around the pitch. I kind of like that.
I know.
I don't know if it's bleached, actually. I shouldn't say that. Maybe it's
no. I mean, it looks like, but it's not.
Torre again actually got some playing time, and of course, Yalchin, Puskas, and Ramu also in there. But to your point, you know, we had some changes in the side. We did have a good amount of the possession. We had the clear advantage in shots on goal. If you look at it, it was 12 shots to their 5, 4 shots on target to none on their side, and 56 possession versus 44% possession to SPAL. So consider that maybe we're not playing our first 11, and we're going up against the side that's still in our, you know, they're in our classification. They're in Serie B. I agree with you. A 1-0 victory is I think a good result, and I don't think it's exactly indicative of our play in the match.
Absolutely. And I have to say that it was even though it was only a mere 1-0, it was still very pleasant. The man of the match, I'm going to have to say that it's still and always Albert Gudmundsson.
Yep.
And happy to see him also Hefty back on the pitch as well.
Me too. Yeah, I know you and I are both Hefty fans. It was good to see him. He had a good match. And it'll be interesting kind of how we line up against Ternana with Sibeli also having some decent performances in the last few matches.
Right. Then I have to say Portanova, I don't know, still a little bit not at par of how I would like to see him. Has he ever been at a higher level? I don't know. Am I starting to get used to better qualitative players and then I'm seeing him lower now? Maybe. And adding to that, Jagiello's still a great performance. I think he was the second maybe best, or up there anyways, among the Genoa players. A great match also for Vogliacco.
Yep.
And also I should say Yeboah starting as a starting 11. He was okay. I still, damn that boy, he still has to stop being so selfish. That's the only big flaw I give him. If he were to be less selfish, he'd be a better striker, better player. And even if he doesn't score with that less being selfish, he would still be well more appreciated.
Of course. I mean, if you have that build up or that assist, obviously you get people remember those plays too. I'm worried about Yeboah, honestly. I know that at the end of last season, it seemed like Serie B would do him good and we could get more playing time out of him, and you might start to see him get more confident and get more into the game. And, you know, for a lot of different reasons, it's not really happened so far in this campaign. This was a good opportunity for him to sort of show himself and show, you know, why he should at least be the number 2 striker in line. And I don't think he did that. I thought Puskás looked better than him when he had come back on. And you have to wonder how often we're going to be kind of calling his number in the next few matches.
It's going to be a tough one. I mean, he has the potential. I think Blessin has to go on the kid and just start to focus on him a little bit more.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, look, still want to see this guy develop. I still think there's potential, but it's starting to look like a little bit of a crowded room up front in the striker position, which is a good thing. So we need to figure out like what we can do to get him to come along.
Again, a lot of confusion at times up at front, even with Puskás when he came on. I don't know if you remember at the end of the match.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, I don't know if I want to call that again like selfishness or not, but there should be a little bit more. And we have been seeing that throughout in the last games overall. So it's not only because of this specific match, a little bit of confusion, a little bit of selfishness and so on, whether probably they need to focus a little bit more on starting to kick the ball from outside the box. I'm not saying always, but starting to do that. Look at what Strootman has done. Look at that. It was, mind you, repeating that is going to be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, right? We may not see that again.
Right, you have to see that, and I it's just like I want to see that and see that and see that. Anyways, but yeah. So what I'm trying to say is like you have to try.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you end up being in the box with all the, as I mentioned in the last podcast, or even in the recap with the Lega football pod, that essentially you get 11 players behind the ball that are defending their balls, so that the spaces are tight.
Right. It makes it easier in a way to defend against us if we're kind of sitting in that place and you're surrounded by 2 or 3 other players wearing the opposite colors. So
we win.
Yep.
We're going to the round of 16. It's in plan for January 11th. We were just talking about that just a few minutes before the pod.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that they haven't determined specifically neither the date nor the time, but it's going to be either the 10th, 11th, or 12th of January. We're going to face Roma at Roma.
I think, how do you feel about the draw, Fabry? I mean, obviously Roma is strong, but I feel like it's somewhat, I don't even want to say it out loud, but I feel semi-optimistic about it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's, you know what, with Mourinho, I think everything is possible.
Yes.
In Serie A, we kind of had taken it from them, but at the same time, we were still not at the levels that we are today. We are in Serie B, and we're nothing to be at the mid-top table of Serie A, no doubt about that. But nevertheless, I mean, depending on how they arrive to that match.
Right.
Sometimes you get into those matches where the bigger teams are so confident, and then they get a rude awakening.
I mean, it certainly could be that way. We could get either side, of course, of that equation too, if they're in a bad run of form, or if they're really kind of humming and they're kind of looking past us in the match. It'll be an interesting one.
And the winner, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not reading that incorrectly, I think it'll be facing the winner between Milan and Torino.
Okay.
So up to the Ternana match. That is I'm excited and scared at the same time. So the first time I'm telling you honestly, in front of everyone, I'm a little bit scared, not terrified, but scared, because Ternana is doing a very nice job. It's the surprise, and we have said that throughout of the Campionato di Serie B.
Yep.
And Lucarelli has put a very nice squad out there. We're looking at the second best, if I'm not mistaking it, second best goal for in Serie B. And that I don't really know much about Ternana. I'll be honest with you. I don't really know even too many of their players, but I'm a little bit worried. Let's put it that way. How about you?
I mean, it's very reasonable to feel that way. I think. I mean, they've won each of their last 5 matches. When we were looking at the season's fixtures at the beginning of the year, we weren't circling this one and saying we got to worry about the Ternana match. But like right now, they're in a pretty good run of form. I mean, I think the teams they've played most recently, if you want to have some optimism, the last 4 matches have been maybe teams in the lower quadrant of Serie B.
True.
And aside for a couple of them, they've been relatively close. They did beat Parma 3-2, going back earlier in I guess that was back in September now. So they clearly have capabilities. I don't know much. Obviously, they have Fabry. There'll be a couple of maybe familiar names.
Casata
as well on the Ternana team. The Vegas betting line for our U.S. friends, we are Genoa right now are actually favored just a little bit to win the match, and Ternana are plus 275 to win it on that side. So it's interesting to see them kind of favoring us that way. But this is going to be a good early, not really early now, because we're going to be looking, what is it, like the 10th match? But it's an important game, obviously. They're the team directly ahead of us. If we're able to get a victory here, it should put us clearly in that top position, and maybe sharing it with a few other teams, and maybe position us well going forward. But I don't know how to think about this one, to be honest with you, because I don't really know much about Ternana myself. But they clearly have been, pretty much white hot since the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. They have 1 draw, 6 wins, and 2 losses.
Yeah.
Against our 5 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss.
Yes.
But I don't know. Do we have a good streak on the away? We're on the road again. And after that, I think they still have a big match again. I can't remember now against who, but they have some, as you said, they just had some easy, quote unquote, easy matches so far. Easier, yeah, exactly.
They have Bari next after us, so another team in that kind of top quadrant. I think they're equal with us on points.
Yes, they are.
So it'll be interesting for them. Yeah, they've had some wins. They beat Regina earlier in the season, which is significant given where they are also kind of level with us on 18 points, and really only had 1 loss to Modena of all teams, which was actually a really bad loss. It was 4-1 to Modena. So I'm curious how we're going to line up for this one. I wonder how Ternana are going to play. I have to imagine they're going to try to go after it as a team that sees themselves at the top of the table. I don't think we're going to be in some defensive struggle with this one. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be. That's what I'm saying. I'm using the word scared, but I don't know, preoccupied, or it can go either way. Let's put it that way. I was looking at the called up, so there is no major surprise. We have the same people that were called up for the SPAL match. Obviously, we are not going to have Bani because of the red card that we saw and talked about for against Cosenza. Mm-hmm. But we have Calvani, which is one of these talented kids from Primavera. And I still think that it's going to be the same formation that we saw at Cosenza. What do you think? Except the Bani, of course.
I agree. I think again, we're starting to see where Blessin wants to go with the lineup, and I don't anticipate any massive kind of changes to the lineup. Of course, we're going to have to with Bani because he's suspended. We were talking just a second ago, like maybe it could be interesting. Are we going to have Hefty instead of Sabelli? I don't know. That's maybe the other one.
That could be the only change, yeah.
Kind of curious, but I kind of tend to think that also with it being a midweek game, we're probably going to have Sabelli and have that kind of full leg kind of type of a player going into this one. So
could be, that's a fair point. I think Hefty, rightfully so, was put into in the match against SPAL in midweek just to get him a little bit, back on his feet after his intestine type of sickness that he had throughout. And so I think you're right. It might be Sabelli just because he's fresher, while Hefty at after the match with SPAL might be a little bit, still a bit more tired. But maybe you never know. And up there, I'd still think that it's going to still be the top, the 5-2-3-1. I still think that's what we're going to see. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think again, I think we've kind of found a way where maybe we want to use our offensive players and have that formation in there. And I really have seen, obviously, we've seen a lot from Strootman in that kind of the second layer down behind those attacking midfielders and supporting that. And I think how he and Friendrup were kind of supporting that offensive unit. We're seeing a lot of kind of symmetry and things that are working well there. So I kind of agree. I feel like we have our game plan at this point going into this match. So it will be an interesting one.
So before we wrap up this Express episode, let's call it. Let's see what you think. What's your prediction?
So I think Ternana will at least get on the score sheet with this one, just given how they've been in a good run of form. They've had at least 2 goals in their last 3 matches. I believe the match will finish 2-1 to Genoa. I think it will be not Strootman with an amazing wonder goal this time, but I do think we'll also have, once again, a goal from Copa, and I think Jagiello will have another one. I think he's been involved, but maybe in some cases unlucky.
Are we going to have a goal from one of the X's or no?
I don't know. I mean, it would be wonderful to see that, but we'll see, I guess. I think he'll be involved in the buildup and maybe getting it that way. So kind of progressing the ball forward. But yeah, 2-1 to Genoa is what I think. What is your thought?
I'm going to be a little bit more conservative this time around. As that scared him that I said to you before, I don't want to say that too much because now it's going to start to be like too heavy.
We have to be careful.
So I'm going to say it's going to end 1-1. Okay. Just because it's going to be an open face match. It's going to be, both sides are going to analyze each other and try the fear of not making the goal, of not getting the goal. Yeah, but we're going to be able to, I think we're going to be the first ones to score. They're going to catch up soon after with the tie. And then it's just going to end 1-1. The heart says that I want to win, but that's most likely how I see where it's going.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And the only one interesting statistic I will leave our listeners with is if looking at away form alone, and you mentioned this a second ago, actually, Fabry, but we are actually second in the table in terms of away points, only behind Bari with 12 points out of 5 matches, with the one, of course, being the loss to Palermo. So
awesome.
And a +4 goal difference. So
I wish we could replay that match against Palermo.
It just
so unfair.
There's a lot about that didn't go the way that I think it should have gone.
Nothing against Palermo, mind you, right? They didn't do anything wrong itself. It was just like an amount of unlucky events, unfortunate events.
Yeah.
So just last thing, next matches for match day 10. Match day 10. That's unbelievable. Anyways, crazy? Yeah, we're 1/4 of the way. So we're starting to see the shape of it. Still early, but we're starting to see some shape. So we have Brescia, Venezia, Como, Benevento, Frosinone, Bari. So that'll be interesting to watch. Mm-hmm. Then we have Regina, Perugia. So we have to watch that Perugia kind of gets their act together now that their coach has been recalled, the original coach. SPAL, Cosenza. So let's hope that our friends from Cosenza are going to get some points there.
Yep.
Sud Tirol, Parma. So if before you would think Parma would have had a clean sheet on this one, now I don't know, right?
It's amazing. I mean, Sud Tirol have not lost a single match in their last 5, and
unbelievable.
They're only 2 points behind Parma as well. So, I mean, could you imagine if we at the end of the match day you have Sud Tirol above Parma in the table?
Amazing. Anyways, and then we have Palermo, Cittadella. We're still the 2 sleeping, I don't know if you want to call them giants, but 2 active type of teams. Pisa, Modena. Modena has totally waken up. Pisa is about to, so I think it's another interesting match. And last but not least, we have Ascoli Cagliari.
I'm kind of glad actually you highlighted Modena and Pisa, because that might not sound like the sexiest match out there. And I think if anybody looked at the table earlier in the season, you saw Modena towards the bottom. Pisa have still stayed there, although they're not sitting solely on last anymore. And you're looking at it, I mean, look, this is a talented team in Pisa. They've managed 3 draws and a win in their last 4. It's a potentially winnable game. Modena have won their last 3. So we'll see what happens.
Alrighty. So I guess let's wrap for this Express episode. Please follow us always on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and definitely on our podcast on all of your podcast preference, whichever that might be.
Come follow us and give Leg of Football a little shout too if you guys have not checked them out yet.
Absolutely. So we'll see you guys next week after the match of Ternana Genoa, and always, as usual,
Forza Genoa.
Genoa.
There we go.
You've listened to La Lanterna, a spotlight on Italian football, a podcast powered by Genoani Si Resta. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.